on words and perception. These words are meant for those who require speech to understand. But for one who perceives without words, what need is there for talk? To those who truly perceive, the heavens and the earth are filled with speech, brought into being by the divine command. Be, and it is. When someone can hear the faintest whisper, why should there be any need for shouting and noise? The story of the Arab poet and the Turkish king. An Arabic-speaking poet once came before a Turkish king who knew neither Arabic nor Persian. The poet recited a grand, eloquent poem in Arabic. As the king sat upon his throne, surrounded by his court, ministers and nobles, the poet stood and began his recitation. At moments requiring praise, the king nodded his head. At moments of wonder, he gazed in awe, and at moments of humility, he showed reverence. The court officials were astonished. Our king does not know a word of Arabic. How could he react so appropriately? Could he have known Arabic all these years and hidden it from us, fearing they might have made disrespectful remarks in Arabic in the past? They bribed the king's favourite servant with horses, mules, and riches, begging him to uncover the truth. Finding the king in a good mood, after a successful hunt, the servant asked about the incident. The king laughed and said, "By God, I do not know Arabic." But I nodded and praised because his overall intent was clear to me. The essence is the intent. The poem is merely a branch. When you focus on the intent, duality vanishes. Duality exists only in the branches, whereas the root is one. Similarly, though spiritual masters appear in different forms and actions, their ultimate purpose is one, the pursuit of the divine. Just as a wind blowing through a palace lifts a rug, moves carpets, scatters dust, ripples the pond, and makes trees dance, these distinct movements all spring from a single source, the one wind. Divine reproof as a sign of love. When someone feels remorse, asking, "Why am I doing this?" this inner reproof is a sign of divine love and grace. As the saying goes, love remains as long as reproof remains. Reproof is reserved for friends, not strangers. Striking a carpet with a stick to remove dust is cleaning, not punishment, but disciplining one's child stems from love. As long as you feel inner pain and regret over your shortcomings, God's grace is upon you. The mirror of the soul. If you see a fault in your brother, that fault is in you. The world is a mirror in which you see your own reflection. As the prophet said, the believer is the mirror of the believer. Remove that fault from yourself, for what bothers you in him is actually what bothers you in yourself. An elephant was brought to a spring to drink. Seeing its own reflection in the water, it shied away, thinking it was shrinking from another elephant. It didn't realize it was shrinking from itself. All bad traits, injustice, malice, envy, greed, ruthlessness, and pride, do not bother you when they are inside you. But when you see them in another, you recoil. A person is not disgusted by their own sores. They will dip a wounded hand into food and lick their fingers without a thought. Yet if they see a tiny scab on someone else, they cannot stomach the meal. Traits are like these wounds, comfortable when they are yours, repulsive when seen in others. Forgive others for recoiling from you, just as you recoil from them. Your offence is their excuse, for the believer is the mirror of the believer. A king once sat gloomily by a riverbank, and his nobles were terrified to approach him. A court jester tried to make him laugh, but the king refused to look up, staring down at the water instead. The jester asked, My lord, what do you see in the water? I see a fool, replied the king. The jester answered, My lord, your servant is not blind either. Annihilating the ego. 2. Eyes cannot coexist in the presence of God. Either you say I, or he says I. Either you must die before him, or he must die before you, so that duality ceases. But since God cannot die, for he is the ever-living, who does not die, it is impossible for him to perish. Therefore you must die to yourself, so that he may manifest within you, and resolve all duality. If you bind 2 living birds together, despite their shared species, they cannot fly because duality remains. But if you tie a dead bird to a living one, it flies because duality is gone. The sun cannot die for the bat. Thus, the bat must die to its bat nature, so it can transform from a creature of darkness into a majestic bird of proximity. A servant of God once prayed to be united with his beloved. God revealed, if you wish for this union, you must sacrifice your head and cease to exist. The servant agreed and laid down his life, attaining his goal. If a human being can sacrifice a life for love, would the creator of love withhold his grace? His annihilation is impossible. Therefore you must be the one to yield. Essence over status. A foolish man once sat above a great spiritual master in a gathering. The master remarked, What difference does above or below make to a lamp? A lamp does not seek a high place for its own sake, but so that others may benefit from its light. Wherever a lamp sits, it remains a lamp. When holy ones seek worldly standing, it is only to catch the worldly in the trap of the world, leading them toward spiritual liberation. When the prophet conquered lands, it was not out of personal need, but to bestow life and illumination. This hand is accustomed to giving, not taking. When a king sets a trap for an untrained falcon, it is not out of malice, but to train it to rest upon the royal wrist. If the falcon understood the king's purpose, it would seek the trap with all its heart. Yet the ignorant look only at outer words, claiming, Our hearts are rapt and full of such talk. God replies, Nay, God has cursed them for their disbelief. Their hearts are not filled with wisdom, but with illusions, doubts, and spiritual coldness. God has sealed their hearts, ears and eyes, so that they view Joseph as a wolf and wisdom as mere nonsense. When God fashioned Adam's body from clay, over 40 days Iblis, Satan, entered the lifeless form, inspecting its veins and blood. Seeing only the physical vessel, Iblis arrogantly assumed he understood Adam completely, unaware of the divine spirit destined to reside within.